Tonight on the In All Kinds of Weather forecast, Onis Konanbanny flips from Tennessee to Florida, solidifying and finalizing a top 10 class for the Gators as they gear up for a make or break year four under Billy Napier. We'll talk about all that and more tonight on the In All Kinds of Weather forecast. And welcome back to the In All Kinds of Weather forecast. I am your host, Neil Schulman. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at All Kinds Weather. Before we go any further, please like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcasts. All that good stuff really helps us bring you more great content. Also have to take a second to shout out our sponsor. In All Kinds of Weather forecast is proudly sponsored by 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and its participants, and they also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it is savings for your child's college, investment advice, or just your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. That's 401k Generation, building stronger futures one generation at a time. For more information, contact them at 866-998-5879 or visit their website, 401kgeneration.com. Also have to shout out our once and future merch partner, Heads and Tails, your one-stop shop for everything Florida Gators related. Our IAKOW 30 code did expire at the end of 2024. We're still working with them on renewing. They are Tampa based, but they ship anywhere in the country. So once we get a new code, it is going to be good for the rest of the year. So go ahead and check out what you want now. Get yourself familiar with what it is you're going to be buying. Once that code goes live, you will get 30% off on it. So go ahead and do some window shopping now, virtual window shopping online at theheadsandtails.com. For now, though, I do want to shout out our temporary sponsor. The In All Kinds of Weather forecast is tonight sponsored by Moe's. Very informal, very unofficial, but I do have a connection there. They catered a work event I was at, and they gave me a ton of these. So, in fact, they gave me, yeah, they like more than I can possibly handle. So, yeah, they're nice people. They have great food today. And I told them, yeah, if you let me take home a couple of bowls I can put in the fridge and use them to power me throughout the rest of my week, I will shout you out on my show tonight. So they did, and it's really good. Just the chicken and rice bowl for lunch, another chicken and rice bowl for dinner. Really good stuff. Helps get me through the day and get what I have to get done throughout the day, throughout the workday, so I can work at night and bring you guys this content and more. So thank you, Mose. And now for the big news of the day. Onis Konanbanny has flipped from Tennessee to Florida. He is a 4-star corner out of Heathwood Hall Episcopal in Columbia, South Carolina. I guess something good does come out of that town. Anyway, a very interesting story. He didn't start his life in South Carolina. In fact, he didn't start his life in the United States or even in North America. He was born in France and he bounced around between there and England before moving to the US just 3 years ago. He is a phenomenal athlete. That's evidenced by the multiple different sports that he plays. Also, soccer and track in his background. Very impressive physical athlete. Phenomenal natural talent there. Mostly sprints when he does track. Also very, very fast, not just in long distances, but also in quick bursts as well. So 6'1", 180 pounds, another year or two of him taking football seriously at Florida, and he could really be a playmaker for the Florida Gators. The offer list, that's probably where I want to start with him. I noticed the stars. I say them on the show for y'all's reference. I lose more trust and respect for them every day. The fact that Dallas Wilson dropped from a 5-star to a 4-star on the 247 Sports composite rankings in their final rankings, which were, by the way after the buzzer had sounded. to end the recruiting class for all intents and purposes. Like stuff like that is just stuff I choose to personally not care for. And it works the other way too. Ben Hanks rose up from a 4-star to a 5-star also after he had signed. It's dumb to me. Like once you sign with a school, it's over. It's finished. The recruiting rankings and evaluation, no, that's done. He signs with the school, it's over with. You've been evaluated, it's canon, and everyone signs in December nowadays. Very, very few sign in the what used to be signing day period, which was early February. This is now the residual signing day, and it's becoming less and less stockpiled with athletes as most of them continue the trend of signing early with schools. So I don't know. I mean, you guys can feel about it how you feel. The point is, I don't really trust or respect the rankings like I once used to. He is a 4-star. Take what you want out of that. But let's talk about his offer list because as someone who's followed college football for all my life, I feel like yes, that this is subjective. I feel like I can kind of tell what looks like a 3-star offer list, a 4-star offer list, and a 5-star offer list. So, with that said, let's look at Konanbanny's offers. Ohio State, defending national champ. They just went out and paid for the most expensive roster in college football and were rewarded with it with a national championship. Okay, that's pretty nice. Who else offered him? Georgia, the sports dominant superpower over the past 5 seasons or so. Okay. All right. We got Ohio State. We got Georgia. That's pretty good. Who else? Oregon, the number 1 seed in the CFP last year. Alabama, the sports dominant superpower before Georgia was. And still, I would say the top dog in the sport over the past 15 years or so. Michigan, the national champion of 2 years ago in 2023. All right, we're seeing a trend here. A lot of elite programs. Who else? Texas A&M, a program that always recruits well, that always gets the top athletes. They don't always win games on the field, but that's not for a lack of talent. They know what they're doing on the recruiting trail. Okay, that continues on the trend. Who else? Penn State, national semifinalist last year. And then just blue blood program after blue blood program to round it out. Oklahoma, Tennessee, Auburn, LSU, FSU. I know they just went 2-10. I'm going to mock them about that at every turn I can. They're still a proud program with some history. Let's be realistic about that. They're still a proud program that went 13-0 not that long ago, and you better believe Mike Norvell is trying to sell him on that. And that's not a nothing burger of a recruiting pitch. That is something to say. So, okay, FSU, USC. And I mean, you name a Power 5 program with any prestige whatsoever, they offered Onis Konanbanny. Miami, Wisconsin, Missouri, Nebraska, Utah, Kentucky, North Carolina, Michigan State, NC State, Syracuse, Virginia Tech. Pretty much the only glaring 2 omissions from his offer list I can see are Notre Dame and Texas. Literally everybody else offered him. And Florida over all those other schools. That's a Hayes Fawcett reference for those of you who didn't get that. Yeah, one hell of an offer list. And it's true that not every single offer is created equally. Some are downright non-committable and they're just formalities. But that's never the case with all the schools. There's no way that 40 different college football programs with real belief that they can compete for a CFP spot all offered him a scholarship as a formality. And I just introduced my subjective concept of giving them stars myself, which, look, I don't evaluate kids all day. I don't pretend to know more than the actual evaluators themselves. I have a very different type of job, full time, and in all kinds of weather, and the Gators are a side hustle for me. But like I said, I've been around college football long enough to know the difference between, okay, that's a pretty nice offer list. Yeah, he might be able to make something of himself here at Florida. And okay, wow, that's really impressive. Everyone wanted this kid kind of offer list. This feels more like the latter. Again, there's no Texas, there's no Notre Dame. Pretty much everybody else that has any prestige whatsoever in the college football world has offered this kid. So that says a lot. And from what I saw on the highlight tape, it's pretty easy to see why. The best one's probably Huddle. There are some other highlight tapes of him floating around the internet. I encourage y'all, if you want to make yourself smarter football fans, go watch the tape yourself when you can. See for yourself, judge for yourself, see what the Gators are getting in this kid. And all the kids the Gators are signing. See what the Gators are getting in each of their signees. And with Konanbanny, watch the hands, watch the feet, watch the hips. Hands when he's in press coverage, feet always, hips as he turns and runs with opposing receivers. Those are the skills he's going to need. Now, he's a bit inexperienced. He needs to work on his craft a bit. He's definitely got to improve his technique. Scouts are very clear about that. The people that do this for a full-time job, who do look at game tape and go watch games and practices and scrimmages and camps and all that good stuff all the time, those people do warn, the highlight tape does show the ability to deliver a big hit. He does, however, not necessarily do that consistently. There are some holes in his consistency in terms of bringing guys down, but that can be worked on because again, he's fairly new to football and the physical ability he brings is real. And I mean that in multiple ways, of course. By the way, he can level guys and dislodge the ball with a jarring hit. And overall, he's just a very physically talented guy. So the long and short of it is Florida got a good one. Florida got a really good one here. Taking him away from Tennessee is always nice. Florida got a good athlete here. He can play receiver, by the way. I said athlete. He can play receiver. Probably not going to, but he can. That's not totally out of the realm of possibility. So with this, I mean, Florida is recruiting him as a DB. So let's just call him a DB for our purposes here. Just going to show you what kind of athlete he is. But Florida got a good one, and it puts a really nice bow on the Gators 2025 recruiting class, which now ranked number 7 in the 247 Sports Talent Composite, which is typically, for all its faults, typically the one I go by. I do like the on-3 Gator people, like Corey. He himself does a really good job. Not so sure I love the overall on-3 model of ranking guys that much, but in any case, this is a really good class that Florida has now. Dallas Wilson, receiver, another receiver in Vernell Brown, defensive end Jaden Woods, we got safety Hilton Stubbs, offensive tackle Tavares Dice, cornerback Ben Hanks, cornerback Onis Konanbanny, defensive end Jalen Wiggins, linebacker Ty Jackson, defensive lineman Joseph Mbachu, running back Waltez Clark, quarterback Trammell Jones, safety Lagonza Hayward, wide receiver Nashawn Montgomery. I mean, that right there, that's a really, really strong group of athletes that Florida added to their class. They still missed on the elites. Guys like Riley Pettyjohn, Michael Fasusi, David Sanders. The Gators were never really in the mix for it. Solomon Thomas, they were in him, I guess, for a minute, but missed on all those guys. Missed on the elite guys. But a lot of really, really good players in this class. And it has depth. It's not just top heavy. A bunch of guys who maybe weren't as highly recruited as the first batch of names, but each of them with some eyebrow raising offers and game tape. Eyebrow raising in a good way, by the way, and eyebrow raising in a positive sense. You got defensive lineman Stephon Shivers, tight end Micah Jones, defensive lineman Jeremiah McLeod, running back Chad Gasper, offensive tackle Jahari Medlock, who, by the way, has been on this very show to talk about this class's depth. Tight end Cameron Kosman, punter Hayden Craig, running back Byron Lewis, wide receiver Moise Tonkara, you got kicker Evan Noel, linebacker Miles Johnson. There's just so much that Daniel Pierre-Louis, another offensive lineman. There's just so much to be positive about. There's so much to see good value in with this Gators class, and there's so much to be excited about. Those are different statements. There's the excitement of landing the top-notch guys, not the top-notch guys. Like I said, they did still miss on those, but the overall 1 to 1.5 to 2 percenters, the guys like Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, Hilton Stubbs, etc., those types of guys, Onis Konanbanny, there are a lot of those. A lot to feel good about with this Florida Gator class, and that doesn't even include the transfers that I didn't even read off. Guys like J. Michael Sturdivant from UCLA, Great get in the portal, wide receiver. Harrison Bailey at quarterback adds more depth there. Yes, that is the Harrison Bailey who started for Tennessee against Florida in the 2020 game. Tennessee guys becoming Florida Gators is kind of the theme of this very podcast. Hashtag smart decision, young man. If you're on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. Also, Kofi Osari, another nice pickup at defensive end. Michael Caraway, a Southern Miss safety transfer. This class has a lot to like about it. It's a really good class, and that can't be said enough. There's a lot of legitimate criticism that Billy Napier deserves, but you can't knock his recruiting. He's recruiting very well. You may not like the portal tactics he deploys. You may not love sometimes how he'll react too slowly to someone being on the market. You may not like how Florida misses on what you think to be a top target. Sometimes it works out great. Look at Jonte Cook, just got himself arrested. People were mad that Billy Napier and Florida passed on him, or those who didn't even realize that Florida passed on him, that Florida missed on him. They didn't miss. They chose not to. They said no. Got himself arrested. Billy Napier is a really good recruiter, and he's a really good evaluator of talent. You got to give the guy credit for that. And I am as vocal as any critic of Billy Napier out there. Guy's a really good recruiter. He's not a good offensive coordinator. He's not a really good situational play caller. In fact, he's downright awful as a situational play caller. The overall offensive scheme is vanilla, and it could be worse, I guess. And it's not the worst overall scheme I've ever seen. It's not the best either. This guy's a really good recruiter, and that's something to feel good about for once in Billy Napier's tenure. Now the wins still have to come. 19 and 19 overall, 500 after 3 seasons, simply is not good enough at the University of Florida. It never has. Florida has fired coaches for doing better than that. Ron Zook, Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, Dan Mullen. But the Gators also won their last 4 games of the regular season. And well, the last 4 games of the season, including a bowl game, finishing 7-5 in the regular season, which I think a lot of Gator fans at the start of the year, before the season started, said that was the bare minimum that they would accept. It's not being in contention for a natty, but hey, they hit the benchmark. That's what a lot of us said we wanted. So, look, at the end of the day, I think Napier is either going to prove us all wrong or he's going to die on his own sword. As you know, the news came out that he did not hire an offensive coordinator. He essentially promoted Russ Callaway to that role, but those who know, those who've been around the block kind of know what that means. So it's going to be Napier calling the plays again. There was some gaslighting coming from other people. To be fair, it was not from Billy himself, but there were gaslighting attempts from others in the Florida Gator circles. And, at this point, Napier will either prove us wrong or he won't, or he'll die on his own sword. The past 3 years, there's been a bit of a gray area between all those black and white sides of this, but that gray area, that middle ground is shrinking. And pretty soon it's just going to be a binary thing. Is Billy Napier producing at a championship level or not? And Scott Strickland will go with him if the answer is no. So either he will or he won't succeed. And either way, it'll be exactly what he deserves. If Billy Napier succeeds, he deserves all the credit in the world for betting on himself, despite all the critics, myself included. And he will go down in history as a guy who never stopped believing in himself, no matter how many other people did. It'll be the kind of story you tell your kids going to bed every night. Billy Napier believed in himself, believed in himself, believed in himself. No one else believed in Billy Napier. Billy Napier believed in himself. He ultimately won the job, or he ultimately won the job for good and won over all his critics as the Gators wound up winning championships. And if Billy Napier fails, he'll be fired. It'll be a 2-for-1. Scott Strickland will go right out the door with him. And Napier will never get another head coaching job anywhere near this good again. And he will deserve that too, because if that's the case, then he will have ignored mountains of data that objectively told him he should have passed the play calling baton. And so I feel like this is a pretty fair statement for most of Gator Nation. I try not to speak for the fan base whenever possible, but I feel like this is a summary of how most Gator fans will feel. I don't think a lot of us are going to feel a lot of pity for him. We can say this is a good human being. He's a good man, and we don't wish him or his family any ill will personally. But from a pure job, from a pure business standpoint, yeah, he deserved it. He deserved to get fired. He refused to see the writing on the wall. He refused to understand that the 4 wins at the end of the 2024 season were much more of a result of what DJ Lagway could do with his natural physical gifts, and how the defense got so much better as the went along. It was not because Napier is that much of a genius of an offensive coordinator. So he's making his bed here, for better or worse. But the last thing I'll say on this show is, if you're going to insist on maintaining control of the offense, even when it hurts the team, which I have said more than a few times, I believe is the case. If you're going to insist on maintaining control of the offense, even when it hurts the team, you may as well just stockpile as much talent around you that you can. You may as well just stockpile as much talent you can around that weakness that you are insisting on maintaining. And to his credit, Billy Napier is doing that. Is the talent that he has amassed enough to overcome that weakness? I don't know. It sure didn't look like it for 2 2/3 seasons. It did very much look like it by the end of 2024. Is what we saw those last 4 games the beginning of a new chapter for the Gators under Napier? We'll see. But he wrapped up this class about as well as he could have. And that wraps up our show. If you enjoyed, please give us a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcasts. Please like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your friends. All that helps us bring you more great content. We will be back whenever we can. Chris and I are both extremely busy these days. We just pump out shows when we can. And all kinds of weather does kind of have to take a back seat to our full-time jobs. That's what pays our salaries. We learned that a long time ago. We do this for fun. It does bring us some money. We make a lot more at our full-time jobs. So that's where we have to put all our effort in. But whenever we can, whenever there's more news that breaks, we will be back to talk about it all. Until then, y'all, take care. Go Gators. And, let's get some basketball wins coming up. You got baseball and softball coming up too. Got a lot to look forward to for the Gators, not just in football, but in the other sports as well. Go Gators.